We believe travel is transformational. Travel expands horizons, enables growth, and is ever-changing in complexity. We believe that curiosity and smart thinking push boundaries and drive innovation. We pursue knowledge, providing insights that power impact. Travel is our world.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Coletta, Manager of Research and Innovation at Phocuswright. Thanks for joining me today for this overview of our travel innovation and technology trends for 2024. So these are the most significant innovation trends that we see impacting travel technology and distribution for this year and beyond. And it's one of the most interesting parts of my job to monitor the technology landscape and study deeply what's most relevant and what's most impactful, and work closely with my fellow analysts to zero in on it. I know everyone's busy, so I'm going to keep this pretty short and sweet, but informative. So Phocuswright will be covering 6 trends this year, and we'll be publishing an in-depth report on each one every few weeks, starting very soon through June. And then we'll do a longer webinar in July to recap the trends in more depth. But we always start out the year by publishing an overview report with summaries of the trends. So that's up on our website currently. This is the landing page up on the screen. And I'll tell you more about how you can access the overview report at the end of the presentation. And this overview is what I will be summarizing today. So I wrote the introduction for the overview report, and I wanted to start by sharing a little bit from it because I think it provides some good context. So in my introduction, I noted that uncertainty may be the one word that best captures the ongoing disruption we've experienced over the past few years in the travel industry, from the pandemic to extreme weather events, inflation, high interest rates, and geopolitical tensions. And what that uncertainty translates to in travel is really whether demand is going to continue to hold up or not. But while uncertainty in the world may be increasing, it's clear that several things in travel are certain. Travel demand is resilient, number one, having shown that it can and will bounce back from even the direst circumstances. And number two, more than ever, travel businesses that don't embrace emerging technologies are on a path towards obsolescence. And generative AI is pretty clearly the biggest emerging technology to pay attention to. But there are plenty of other developments in travel and technology that will influence how travel businesses operate in the coming years. And in my introduction, I also pointed out that this year's World Economic Forum conference in Davos, Switzerland, which was just held in January, convened under the theme of rebuilding trust. And they cited the need to address the increasing division and uncertainty that continue to destabilize the world. And so I talked about how trust is such a crucial theme in travel, because travel can be such a powerful force for good, as we in the industry all know. Yet it's a huge and complicated industry, and we have plenty of our own issues and questions to grapple with. So, especially in the context of generative AI, some of the questions I posed in my introduction would be: should travel companies trust generative AI to help inform their business decisions? And can generative AI companies and platforms be trusted with proprietary business data? But there are also currently big questions around financial solutions and payment solutions, personally identifiable information and data security, sustainability, and authenticity of content and brand. I won't go through all of them here on the screen, but my conclusion was that staying on top of and ahead of the latest innovations is the bedrock upon which we can understand how to effectively leverage new technologies while establishing and enhancing trust within our own ecosystems. So that's partly why we chose these specific trends and why we think they're so important to pay attention to this year. All right, so without further ado, we'll dive right into the trends. The first one is at a crossroads, underappreciated tech in travel. This will be the first report that we publish this year within just a week or two. And this is written by Marcus Schreier, chairman of the Meta Foundation. Marcus is a new author with us this year. He's an expert in emerging technologies and travel. He spent many years in leadership positions at top hospitality brands and currently does lots of things, including teaching competitive strategy at NYU. And just as it sounds, this report will attempt to surface tech opportunities that may be underappreciated by the industry, specifically in the realms of virtual and augmented reality, Web3, and the Internet of Things. And we chose to use the word underappreciated for these technologies, but we considered using the word underwhelming because most people in the travel industry would probably think of them that way. They've been around a while and arguably haven't moved the needle all that much and may feel underwhelming at this point. But there are significant opportunities and audiences for these if you know where to look and what to look at. So we wanted to highlight why they're underappreciated. And so for VR and AR, especially with the recent launch of the Apple Vision Pro, they're certainly worth revisiting now for use cases from previewing trips to in-destination navigation to staff training. And with Web3, I think it's been difficult to take serious because it's so associated with crypto, which has been subject to bubbles and tons of bad press. But again, there's real progress being made here in travel and use cases that are starting to gain traction. So we want to keep the focus on it. For some examples, BlockSky is a company that's doing some great work with blockchain in travel. And also the secondary marketplace opportunities created by non-fungible tokens or NFTs are very much worth keeping an eye on. And the report will also cover the intersection of the Internet of Things and machine learning in terms of use cases for travelers and back-end applications specifically for airlines and in hospitality, as well as regarding sustainable travel practices. Then the second trend is entitled Who Owns the Customer Profile? How about the customer? And this will be written by Norm Rose, our senior technology and corporate market analyst. And this one will be all about identity. And it'll focus mainly on SSI or self-sovereign ID and biometrics and how they can work together to facilitate the fabled connected trip concept, which aims to enable people to travel much more seamlessly. And it'll highlight some of the friction points with identity. Like with SSI, the idea is that you own your own identity as opposed to having separate profiles that live across all the companies that you shop with. And the advantage would be that you can choose what kind of specific personal data you want to share, and that should result in personalization benefits for both the traveler and the merchant. But are people really ready for the responsibility of owning their own identity in large numbers? And what are the benefits and drawbacks of this type of technology? And what will it take to go mainstream? Those are all big questions that the report will get at. And the report will cover the implications for payments, as well as some of the progress being made in this area by organizations like CETA and IATA and various startups. The third trend is how cutting emissions cuts into corporate travel. It will be written by Lorraine Cilio, senior analyst and the founder of Phocuswright Research. And this one will aim to bring about an understanding of how large corporations plan to achieve sustainability targets through cutting back on employee travel, and thus help us better predict the recovery of the corporate travel market. And it'll focus on Scope 3 emissions, which are those emissions generated from sources outside of a company. And most relevantly, this includes carbon emissions from business travel. And it's being increasingly mandated around the world for businesses to track and report on these. So anyone engaged in business travel needs to be thinking about this. And there's potentially billions of dollars of impact here. Just as one example, in 2022, Morgan Stanley disclosed that business travel represented 46% of their total market-based emissions, and many other large companies are in a similar position. So this report will focus mainly on the Fortune 1000 companies and the challenges they're facing, the progress they're making in this area, and how it all might play out. The fourth trend is from buzzword to bottom line, keeping pace with generative AI in travel. And this one will be written by Kathy Skitziana-Walsh, senior research analyst with Phocuswright, and myself. So I'll be co-authoring this one with her. And it'll be one of two trend reports on generative AI that we'll be publishing this year. And it'll cover the shorter term time frame. So what's happened in the past year and a half or so in travel with generative AI, And we'll try to filter out the noise, highlight the best use cases that have arisen, as well as what has seemed more like a waste of time in an effort to try to avoid pursuing more of that. And we'll look specifically at consumer travel versus corporate travel, back-end uses and automation in particular, the impact so far and evolution of advertising and search engine optimization, how interfaces have evolved, including multimodal content, what OpenAI's GPTs and assistants mean for travel, the most recent advancements in products from Google and other major players in the space, and the shorter-term implication of autonomous agents for travel research and booking. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more. This will be published in a few months, and we'll pretty much cover whatever is most current at the time. The fifth trend will be autonomous agents in travel are coming. It'll also be written by Norm Rose, and this will be our second report on generative AI. And it'll look at the longer-term impact of it, years down the road. And it'll focus mainly on the impact of autonomous agents, which we think will be one of the biggest game-changing uses of generative AI, and which will start gaining a lot of traction this year, especially with OpenAI now placing specific emphasis on them. So the report will cover how interfaces may evolve over the long term, how the role of all the large tech players might evolve, and the idea that we may have agents talking to each other, for example, a traveler's agent communicating or even negotiating with a seller's agent, and the idea that eventually we may be speaking with a virtual avatar who will be very much like a virtual travel agent and will ask us questions and get to know us and tailor recommendations for us. And the report will touch on the regulatory environment as well. There are things going on like lawsuits for use of proprietary content to train the large language models, the outcome of which could shift the landscape dramatically in the longer term. And then our sixth and final trend is get ready to accept the digital euro, rupee, and yuan. This will again be written by Norm. So he's writing 3 of the trend reports this year. And this is about central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, which to most people sound like cryptocurrency. And there are some similarities in that they are digital currencies, but these are much different, most notably in that they're issued by the central banks of nations and are fully centralized, in contrast to the generally decentralized nature of most cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And CBDCs are currently being trialed in various stages around the world, but it's time to pay attention to them because they are coming soon and obviously have implications for the forms of payments that travel companies will need to accept, along with other considerations. So this report will take a well-balanced approach in terms of looking at the pros of CBDCs, which could be greater ease of transacting, increased safety and reduced fraud, easing payment costs, and increasing efficiency of cross-border transactions, weighed with what many people are pointing out as some rather large downsides and risks, including the government having full visibility into what people spend their money on, and potentially the ability to restrict or turn on and off spend at their discretion, and also the potential for hackers to compromise the entire centralized financial system. And that is it for the trends already. Not exactly ending on the most positive note there with the potential downsides of CBDCs, but I do think that highlights that there are some really big issues and questions that we'll be tackling this year, and we're looking forward to digging in and doing that. So if you're a research client of ours, you already have access to the trend overview report in our online library, and then you'll have immediate access to all the trend reports as they're published through June. And if you're not a research client, you can go to our website and purchase the bundle of reports anytime. And similarly, they'll be made available to you as they are published through June. The link to get to this report page that I'm again showing on the screen is on the LinkedIn event landing page, or you can just go to Google Phocuswright Tech Trends 2024 and it should come up. So we hope you'll check it out. Appreciate you attending. Thanks very much. I just want to mention, it so happens that tomorrow I'll be presenting some of our research on AI and joining a panel discussion at the Travel Trends AI Summit 2024. So if you'd like to attend that, the link is here with a code for free tickets. Just enter access code PW when you check out. So maybe see you there, or if anything, hopefully at Phocuswright Europe in June in Barcelona. We have a price increase for those tickets coming up on February 29th. So the earlier you get your tickets, the better. Enjoy the rest of your day, which I hope will be spent thinking about how these trends apply to your own business or your own role in the travel industry. Thanks.